Baylor men's basketball got the win on Monday, 117-53 on Mississippi Valley State, and the rest of the Big 12 was taking care of business. Is this the best conference in college basketball? This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome into Locked On Baylor. I'm Drake Toll from Sports Illustrated's Inside the Bears. That's Jason Jordan from the big Sports Illustrated, the director of basketball recruiting. Jason, I want to thank you, everybody out there, for making Locked On Baylor their first listen every single day, especially with big guests like this with great national perspective on basketball. And we've already gotten to see some of these games tip off and some of these big teams in action. And one of the things that I've circled is the strength of the Big 12. I know you follow recruiting a ton and how these Big 12 schools have progressed in recruiting, even Kansas State, like the bottom feeder of the Big 12 and what they're doing. They're 77th in Ken Palm right now, and they're last in the league, which is insane to me. Is the Big 12, has it cemented itself as the best conference in college basketball, both on the court and in recruiting off the court?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say in recruiting because recruiting in the last, it tends to be top heavy when Duke grabs a few good players.
Right.
Kentucky grabs a few good players, and this year is no different. But definitely in college basketball, I don't think anybody would disagree that they're the top. I mean, good luck arguing that, right? Even in our preseason stuff, I picked Baylor and Kansas to reach the Final Four. And then, I mean, people say top heavy, but they're really balanced. I mean, you got Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State. Texas Tech is always going to be a defensive juggernaut. So, yeah, I mean, I feel very confident most years, especially here recently, saying they're the best basketball conference for sure. And, I mean, come on, they won the last two titles. So
they did do that.
Prove me wrong.
And appeared in three titles. What was Virginia, and Texas Tech. One thing that I'm so intrigued about. So I started covering Baylor about 4 years ago. And so my scope of Big 12 basketball goes back 5 or 6 years. But look at a decade ago, there are some solid teams, but it's not dominant. Do you feel like there's a certain, what clicked for the Big 12 that has now put them so firmly at the top of college basketball, even with Gonzaga knocking on the door of possibly wanting to come to the league?
Yeah, I think it's just consistency. I mean, I think they stuck to their brand of basketball, physical, defensive-minded basketball. And if you look at the teams, I say this all the time, you look at the teams that have won the national title the last couple of years, it's full of high IQ playmakers that are long and wiry and, tough, gritty guards who can play interchangeable at different positions. So that's the brand. Everybody knows it. I talk to coaches about this stuff all the time. So, when we talk about recruits, that'll be a motif. That'll be a theme.
Yeah.
He's a high IQ. Oh, he can play this position, that position. So, I think just consistency, and they've done that for a long time, and it's obviously paying off huge dividends for them now.
Jason, you talk to the biggest and best recruits in college basketball and have for a while now. In football, there is I want to play for the SEC. If you're a 5-star recruit, you're looking at the SEC first, almost without exception.
Right.
In basketball, where 68 teams make the tournament and 4 teams, I think it was 3 or 4 from the Mountain West get in, anybody at any school in any league can win a national title. Mm-hmm. Do conferences matter to these recruits whatsoever?
No, I had this conversation earlier, especially with the upper echelon kids. I mean, we're talking like top 20, but guys that you guys will go after.
Yeah.
No, doesn't matter to them. They're going to be they want to be in a winning program. The tide is turning a little bit. I don't know if it's NIL or whatever, right? The bags are dropping. I don't know. But no, they're not like, and I play in the Big 12. I play in the ACC. But we won in the SEC. Nobody says that. No 18-year-old to 19-year-old, they don't say that. Especially, as they're being recruited. I mean, coaches sell that. I had a recruit tell me last week, I don't know why. I don't know why this coach talks about all the national championships that come out of there. Even this is their program.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, you weren't there when they won those titles. So, why are you trying to sell me on that? I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So they don't care about the national titles. They certainly don't care about the conference. I said this earlier, and it's so true. Actually put it to the test since I said it. Most of the kids that I talk to, and we're talking top 25 McDonald's All-American level kids, and in 18, we'll say 16 to 18 range, right?
Yeah.
Ask them who won the national title the year, and this might sting, but the year before last. Ask them. Go ahead and ask them. They're gonna be like, "Oh man, let me think." Now I know Kansas won last year. Okay, got you there. Dang, who won, man? Who won? And I said that on the show earlier.
Yeah.
And I tried it out with two guys since I think like 3:00, and neither one of them could tell me who won. Neither one. I wouldn't put them out there like that. But they definitely had no clue. But when I told them, they remember, but it's not in the forefront of their mind. So do they consider that when they're thinking about? No, absolutely not. Sounds good.
Right. No, look, it's great for me to talk about, and it's great for it's great for the fans.
Yeah, you could definitely brag. All day.
Right. And that's the conference pride has always been a fan thing. And Jason, not like to get on a soapbox here, but the Big 12 just signed a TV contract specifically for football. That most people pointing to football, and the fans are going nuts as if this contract is going to put any money in their pocket, as if this is going to do anything for recruiting. It's going to do so little for that. And
I'll say this to interject, not to cut you, because I will say that stuff, like if you're like, hey, we play, let's say for example, we play 30 games every year. Yeah. I can guarantee you that we'll have 18 on national television. That matters. That matters. You're speaking to the vanity of 18-year-old, and they're all egomaniacs. And in a good way, they got to be egomaniacs to be who they are. But yes, that matters. That the TV part, that matters. Now, given it's not going to put you over the top, because any kid that's top 15 that you want, they're only looking at schools that are going to put them on TV. You know
exactly.
So you know what I'm saying? But when you're going into like the role players and stuff like that, that's gonna matter. That's gonna matter.
Yeah. Oh, right. And that's Jerome Tang at Kansas State could use the TV. He could say, look, I'm gonna put you on national television. Scott Drew, that is the last thing that he's pitching to a kid is TV, because they're gonna be on TV either way. But all that ties into me to say that this conference deal, fans get so excited about being a part of a conference, and our conference signed a TV deal, we're better than you. And to me, it's like the difference in what fans want versus what recruits want. Feels like there's a pretty big gap there, as there probably should be. But what is number one right now? What are you hearing from recruits day in and day out that draws them into a program, even if it's not the national championship 2 years ago?
Well, it's prestige. I mean, a lot, they still love the blue bloods. And to be quite honest with you, I'm hearing more and more about NIL. And that's not great, because I don't think that's a real thing. Like, you hear all these different projected numbers of guys that are getting this money and that money and stuff, and nothing that anyone can prove. So that's always fun. And the reality is, and I tell you, I've talked to parents, they're not getting the money that you're seeing on the internet. It's not that people speculate about on Twitter. They're not getting that amount. Right. Are they getting money? Yes, and they should be, and I love it. But, a lot of times, elite guys, even stretching out to top 40, they're thinking, they're leaning into the exception example, not the rule. And by and large, guys are getting, solid money. So I'd say solid, but great. The ones that are like, oh man, Mikey Williams just earned a multi-million. Okay, there's Mikey Williams. Not to say he's better or what. He's just famous. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, the reality is he's not the best player in the 2023 class. He's a really good player going to Memphis now. That's going to be great for Penny. But he's really famous, got a big Instagram following, and that's going to give you a big check. Yeah. But people not getting that money. They're not signing multi-million-dollar deals. That's a lie. It's not true.
Especially at Baylor, where I feel like they've almost shied away from the NIL in a way that's worked. And that's kind of the weird thing about Scott Drew. He's doing things like a football coach would have in 1985, redshirting a bunch of guys, taking super weird random kids out of the transfer portal and flipping them into high caliber recruits. And Jason, I want to get your thoughts on Scott Drew as just a weird basketball mind. But first, I want to tell the folks at home about one of our sponsors here at Locked On, and that is SimpliSafe. As you all know, my car got broken into about 3 weeks ago, and they stole my wallet, which is still not found. Let's see. I don't have my new one. I bought a new one, and I hate it. It's a trifold. It's terrible. Had I had SimpliSafe like I do now, I would not have had that issue because SimpliSafe has HD cameras all in and around your home. They monitor your car. They'll monitor your front door and your back door and your windows and everything. And if there's a risk, SimpliSafe knows it, and they have this little smart system that's not going to notify you every time the dog barks and call the police. Instead, it has act like an actual, genuine, personal understanding of what's going on at your house and can save you from the stress of having the police at your home every other day because your dog barked, and also save you a lot of money and time and everything by keeping the bad guys out. SimpliSafe, the best home security system of 2022, voted by News World and World Report. So don't miss your chance right now. Save big. Get 50% off any new system at simplisafe.com right now. That's 50% off. Biggest discount of the year. Don't wait. simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege at SimpliSafe. Jason, look, Scott Drew, man. Number one, here's this goofy, like, middle-aged white dude who is taking college basketball by storm and bringing in recruits to redshirt them. D'Antoine Grimes, the most recent example, flipping guys like Adam Flagler into college basketball stars via the redshirt. How is this guy doing that when you've already mentioned the egos of these recruits and especially the egos of the guys in the transfer portal betting on themselves? Why go play for a basketball coach that's going to redshirt you?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody thinks they're going to be redshirted. Let me start with that. But how is he having the success? He's a great manager of personalities. Like, he's very relatable. That's what I hear specifically from horse's mouth. Recruits like to talk to him on the phone. That's always a big measuring stick that I use. They're always excited when they get the call from Scott. Whenever I've broken a Baylor commitment, I'm always like, what is his reaction? And it's always the same. He always does something crazy, like scream in public, or he'll FaceTime him and just run around the room that he's in, do something crazy. You know what I'm saying? And it makes the kids feel wanted. They feel like they can trust him. They feel like, I hear all the time that he often talks about things that have nothing to do with basketball. That's probably like most of the conversation. Right. And so, when you're doing that, that means you're a great, you know how to forge relationships, you know how to nurture relationships, which is, that's a metaphor for life, right? But especially in the sport that he's in with young athletes, where they don't feel like they can trust anybody. And a lot of people trust Drew. They just do. And, obviously he did win a national title. I know these kids don't remember that, but he did.
Right.
He did.
The recruits wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
But their parents know, their coaches know. They tend to remind them, you know what I'm saying? Now, on the spot, they're not going to know. But, that matters. That matters. Even the recruit that told me, why do they talk about these I'm not saying the school. Why do they talk about these old school national titles? You weren't even the coach then. Well, they did say, had they won in the last few years, that would be big. Okay. Right. Well, Baylor's won in the last few years. And so, you do, when you win a national title, you can ride that wave for 5-10 years, really. Yeah. You really can. And so, he knows how to sell himself, but he's just very relatable. And it's organic. And that is a skill. It's not a skill because it's organic, but that is a gift. That is a gift. Absolutely. Few coaches have it. But he's certainly one of them. I would say Hubert Davis is another one that is just gifted in that regard.
Yeah. Well, also went to a national. I beat Scott Drew last year, actually, too.
You did. I didn't mean to bring that up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I know that's tough. That's tough.
Drop Hubert in there. Thank you. Scott Drew at Baylor has been a revelation the last 20 years. Yeah, I think it was Rothstein put out this week. It's every game is Scott Drew evolution. And that's kind of the theme of the last 21 years under Drew. And pushing 21 years. The thing that I've circled here as well that just makes him, to me, is weird. these D2 recruits, Dale Bonner being another example of that, where Drew goes out, finds a really good player from the D2 level that is maybe under-recruited or barely on anybody's radar, plucks them up, flips them in a year and a half, 2 years, and turns them into a star. Are you seeing that regularly in college basketball, or is Scott Drew doing something outside of the box that other people haven't caught on to yet?
Yeah, definitely outside of the box. I mean, you don't see a lot of D2 guys flip and turn into. But what you have to remember is that, kudos to him. You take a really good. I mean, you got to think he might know what he's doing, X's and O's wise. Yeah. But you take a guy like that, give them an opportunity. I mean, Scott Drew calls is like that kid, junior, senior. He could be a senior. He could be a grad transfer. Then Scott Drew calls. He's like, oh my God, I wanted you to call me 4 years ago. That's when he goes back to, he's like, man, I'm finally living my dream 4 years later. I'll run through a wall for you, literally. And you want that kid on your team because those role players are the ones that, A, that he's going to know his role. B, he's going to accept his role. And he's just going to be very grateful about the opportunity afforded to him. So, I mean, it's honestly a great strategy. Because that's going to be a loyal player. That's going to be a hardworking player all the time. That player will always fit that bill. And so he's taking chances on it, and it's working out for him.
Jason, I want to get into some tangibles on guys like Miro Little, Jacoby Walter. First, before that even, and kind of wrapping up Scott Drew, what he's been able to do, I saw a stat the other day that's like, you're pushing 50% are in that realm of guys who have at least toyed with the transfer portal in college basketball. It is a part of the game at this point. And the one of the few, and you're seeing a lot of the top 10 teams, especially, that's schools that guys aren't transferring out of is Baylor. Yeah. What is that? Even guys like Zach Loveday, who's sat on the bench here for 3 years. Why is it that a program like Baylor, is it simply success that's keeping people in the program?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I think it's the culture too. I mean, we love Scott Drew, but I mean, John and Alvin Brooks.
Yeah,
kids love Alvin Brooks. They love him. Like it's almost the same excitement as, oh man, I got that Coach Brooks called me. It's that. I mean, I'm talking 5-star kids. So. And they all fit the mold. It obviously, birds of a feather. So I said Scott Drew's super relatable. So are those guys, and they're family men. They relate to these guys. They talk to them. They care about them. It makes sense. And I mean, obviously they're winning. So the climate there is very inclusive. I mean, they treat walk-ons, with the same respect they treat starters, and that's just the culture. That's a culture. That's a culture thing. And so it doesn't shock me that, not a lot of guys are, hitting the transfer portal. That doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah. Well, for Baylor, you've got 2 new guys coming in the next class, along with, I'm sure, the most random D3 player you've ever heard of, who becomes the next Freddie Gillespie, because inevitably Scott Drew does that. But before we get into Walter Miro Little, tell the folks at home about Built Bar. Built Bar's back, baby. I know we haven't talked about Built Bar in a long time, but Built Bar has gone nowhere. Right now, Built Bar reimagining new flavors. That's right. They're doing it again. Cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, and coconut brownie topper. Now, I've had the coconut brownie bar, but the toppers are new to me. White chocolate, peppermint granola, Built's take on a granola bar. So it's more filling, still very tasty. Candy cane brownie puff is also a thing. Anyone who hasn't tried a Built Bar before, they're it. They're the truth. 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories. One bite will change your life forever. It's Built Bar. Every morning I start my day with a candy apple crisp bang. Look at this. I'll take you guys behind the scenes. This is my refrigerator candy apple crisp bang right here, and I eat a Built Bar. That's how I start my morning. Every single morning, they're all loaded and ready to go. So Built Bar right now, use promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com for 15% off your order. LOCKED15 at Built Bar or Built.com for 15% off your order. Jason, 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, 3-star recruits. You talk to them all. You got all these guys out here. Miro Little is someone that Baylor fans don't know a lot about. Foreign guys. That's just kind of, foreign recruits pop up on the radar, and Scott Drew's been really good at plucking them out there and recently turning them into lottery picks. What do you know about Miro Little that has at least jumped onto your radar?
Right. Well, you see him more this year, and we playing the NIBC, the best high school basketball conference in the country at Sunrise Christian. So 6'4", heady point guard, high IQ guy. What you would probably think from a overseas prospect, right? You have to say that first, but it's true. I mean, I hate to be cliche, but he's very smart. He definitely thinks the game 3 plays ahead. But tangible wise, I mean, he's as a point guard, he thrives as a playmaker. But I think the thing that really is going to keep him on the floor, keep him spreading the defense, is his ability to stretch the defense and knock down shots. I mean, he's knocking them down. I think it was he 45% in that Euro, that the league that he was in, something insane like that. So his ability to stretch the defense, and I say that, but he really does thrive as a playmaker. He's really great in the pick and roll, especially the high screen and roll, pick and pop, flares. He gets a piece of the paint and kicks it out to the wing really well. Just a heady point guard who makes the right basketball plays on most to all possessions.
Along with him in this class, obviously kind of the crown jewel to this point is Jacoby Walter, a 5-star kid. I've seen 4-star, I've seen 5-star. A shooting guard at 6'5".
Yeah.
The Keontae George, right down for Baylor. I mean, you saw it in the game on Monday. Is just one of the guys that walks into a program and is that next level, 3rd year, 4th year look out of a 1st year guy. Is Jacoby Walter in that conversation, or even as one of the top 20, 15 guys in this class, is there still work needed?
Meaning in the conversation comparable to Keontae George?
Sure, why not?
Well, mentality-wise, yes. I mean, they have different games, right? So Keontae is more, he thrives as more of a player. They're both animals. Yeah. Like, they're both wild beasts on the court, and I mean that in an amazing way. 6'5", legit 6'5", maybe even closer to 6'6". Athlete and just a dog on the court. Basketball minds know what I say when I say dog. That's an absolute
DAWG.
There you go. Yeah, your basketball. So 6'5", bouncy, super athlete. He can run the point. But and I think the biggest thing about he's a 3-level scorer. We got to be cliche and say that, but it's true. 3-level scorer, thrives at 3-level scorer, but he's really good in the mid range, and that speaks to high IQ. Because a lot of guys are trying to get down, he'll get all the way to the basket to get the highlight, but he'll pull up, he'll stop for the floater, he'll stop and pull up, create separation. But really tough and physical with his approach, finishes through contact. And what I like about him is, he's proven that he can play with other stars. He played with Dink Pate this summer with Trae Young, and he played with Caden Cooper. So look at that. Imagine that backcourt. And they were that good. And they all thrived, and it wasn't any selfishness. I mean, I talked to Dink about him. He said Jacoby really took him under his wing, and he learned a lot from him. So he's also a leader, and those are the things that I think will obviously translate into success at the next level.
Before we get you out of here, Jason, I'm going to drop this question on you. We weren't prepared for this, but Baylor is, when you talk about guys that Jalen Bridges and Flo Thamba, Jonathan Tamo-Chachua, Caleb Lohner even, they're getting older, right? There's no promise they'll be here in a year or two. And a few of them we know they won't. So obviously they're looking for possible recruits out of the transfer portal to come in and play big. Right. But even guys coming up in this next class out of the 2023 guys, is there anybody still left on the board? Even a big or a guard that you would think 4-star, 5-star prospect Baylor is in the hat for that we might be shocked by?
I think they are going to do what most staffs do in this new world that we live in, and that is save a couple spots for that transfer portal. Because people forget they have given the NCAA has. I mean, they're still on some lists for sure. Yeah. But the NCAA has given these players 15 more days to make up their mind, start in April. So, I mean, my good, over 2 weeks, you get more than, good luck with the headache medicine for coaching staff. I mean, they're just going to drag them along. Yeah. And they added, that means that the number is going to swell probably by 500 to 1,000 more than they were last year, because everybody is the best transfer.
Right.
We have rankings now. We do top 25 transfer portal player rankings.
Bet on yourself.
We do them too.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying I'm not throwing off at all, but it is what it is. And as long as, and I'm not knocking the transfer waiver, but this is the world we live in.
Yeah.
Guys are leaving. We did a story last year on, a lot of them are horror stories too. It's not always green on the other side. So it's something people are gonna have to weigh up. But I said that to say, I had so many coaches come to me at PCM and say, "Hey man, you better start telling these guys, there ain't no more 4 or 5 man classes. We saving 2 spots for the portal." So they trying to, and I say this, that message has been received. 24 guys are getting off that board.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll definitely see.
The new age, it happens so fast too. Yeah. Just like no buffer and bam, release it. And now it's completely altered the way the game is recruited and eventually will be played. So Jason, for those out there who are looking for more basketball coverage, both recruiting and college basketball stuff, where can they find your work?
SI.com, college basketball, especially now, we're there all the time. I always have different content, especially now with the season cranking up tonight. So there, then Jason, Lord, thank you. You have the Twitter handle right there. And then Jason C. Jordan on Instagram. So definitely hit me up, man. Definitely hit me up.
Boom. Drake Toll alongside Jason Jordan. Jordan is the basketball recruiting director at Sports Illustrated. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Come back tomorrow. John Garcia Jr., football recruiting director at Sports Illustrated, joins the show. This has been, always will be, Locked On Baylor.